Hey guys, welcome to Cozy Womb Podcast. My name is Shan, Mama of the Girls. This is season 4. This series will be primarily just about women who are out here just doing it up. And when I say doing it up, doing it in their own way, running their businesses, not momming the traditional way, not working the traditional way, just really out here cutting their own pattern as to who they want to be and what they want to become. So this series is primarily about great women who are among us and just really picking their minds and seeing what their why is. I'm very interested in what women today why is, as to what they do, why they do it, how do they feel while they do it, and really just representing and shouting out other women. So that's what this series is. Welcome to Cozy Womb Podcast. Let's get into it.
What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Lady J, creator of #4BrownGirls blog. The content of my post is to educate, uplift, support, and empower Black women who struggle with anxiety and depression. If you can relate to this, then please head over to 4browngirlsblog.com and read my post. While you're there, make sure to leave a comment and share on your social media too. If it's one thing I want you to get from my blog, is that I believe in you and you are not alone.
Here we go.
Back to the show.
Back to the show.
So this is Cozy Womb's episode 6 of season 4, Among Our Greatest Women. And I have Nicole Hunt, and we're trying to figure out what her why is behind everything that she does. So basically, Nicole is a mother, she's a teacher of betterment, a yoga instructing woman who has founded Here and Now Motherhood.org. And I want to know more about her, and I think we should all share more about her because she's helping different mothers out here become better people. So welcome to Cozy Womb, Nicole Hunt.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Great. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so I have a 2.5-year-old son. My husband and I and my son live in Northeast Tennessee. We've lived here for coming up on 2 years now. I'm from Oregon, my husband's from Arizona, and all of our family's out there, so we're kind of doing our own thing out here in Tennessee. And so before we lived here, we were in California, and I gave birth to my son in California, and as soon as the epidural wore off, I had this really intense pain in the outside of my hips. And I asked all of these like nurses and like the OBGYN, everybody, midwives, like what was going on, and no one really knew what was happening, why I was in all this pain. And after I got out of the hospital, I kept pushing to figure out what was going on. And I saw a bunch of different healthcare providers, and like a midwife told me, she's like, well, you just had a baby, what do you expect? And I was like, listen, I shouldn't be in this much pain for this long.
Right.
It's been months, it's constant. And I did see a pelvic floor physical therapist, but she didn't really do anything. She told me I was healing faster, so it kind of made me feel like I should be like thankful for being in pain, which was ridiculous. But so I just kind of gave up after a while. I was like, maybe moms are just always in pain. Like maybe that's like something about motherhood no one told me. And I just kind of went on with my life. And then I went to a postpartum yoga class and designed for postpartum women. And she showed us a move during that class that fixed my birth injury.
Wow.
Yeah, so I walked out of that yoga class not in pain anymore. When I'd had like 5 or 6 healthcare providers tell me they didn't know what was going on, or that I should just accept it and just be in constant pain. So after that, I was like, there's like this missing piece in maternal health that yoga can fill, because I'm sure I'm not the only mom that's experienced something like that. And so that's where Here Now Motherhood came from, to kind of fill in some of those gaps with maternal health, because it's ridiculous for someone to tell you that it's normal to be in constant pain.
That's not normal. And I that's what I don't like about doctors. Instead of them say, you know, I don't know right now, let me speak to someone, let me try to figure it out, and then I'll call you, or do their own research. It's kind of like, if we don't have a pill to fix it, that you should just deal with it and it's normal. And it's not that. And then you would think like the doctor that's coming in to give you the epidural would have more insight on what the possibilities are that may happen from the epidural, especially the fact that we're using our bodies to push a whole human being out, you would think. But then again, doctors are very resistant against natural remedies of solutions. So to me, it kind of makes sense. So
yeah, I was kind of angry for a while about it, and then I kind of realized, I was like, well, you know what? OBGYNs are surgeons, and surgeons don't know anything about, like, they're like, oh, it'll take like 2 weeks to recover, and it never takes that much to recover after surgery. Right. They just never see you again. I don't know. But I started thinking, I was like, you know, Western medicine is like triage medicine. It's designed to like keep you from dying, and pretty good at that. You know, like the problem is, like, a lot of us moms, we're not dying, but we're not enjoying what we're doing.
We're not living our best life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started leaning more towards like Eastern type concepts after I had this yoga experience. I started kind of diving into it more, and I found out that like I also discovered Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga, and it's how to bring balance with food and routines. And when I found that out, I started kind of experimenting with just certain foods. I mean, it's nothing complicated. It's things like what impact is a white potato versus a sweet potato gonna have, like things like that. Not that complicated. But when I started doing that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. Like, I'm finally like not snapping at my husband all the time. Like, I don't know. So I was like, it was very empowering for me to figure out that there was like more to it. You know, like you were saying, it can be pretty frustrating when you're talking with a Western doctor and they're like, that's it, done. You know, there's nothing else. And on top of it, like, lots of other schools of thought have more ways to support mothers, like, kind of built in, and we don't really have that in the US. So
it's unfortunate, and you would think that we have so many different cultures here that it would be welcome to figure out a better way or a different way of looking at something, but it's very resistant. And for you to find a natural way of, you know, fixing your pain, and then find a natural way of, you know, eating in order to help you feel better, it just goes to show that all of these things are connected, and it's not just about making a drug to, you know, temporarily patch an issue. Teach me how I can help myself, and it's not that. So that's really good. That's really good. So with you going through that experience, how has that helped other mothers that you've come across within, you know, Here and Now Motherhood?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool, because one of the other factors of being, you know, a mother is you just get really lonely. You know, I was even just thinking about this morning, I was thinking about this interaction I had. I don't know why it came up in my mind, but I was thinking about this interaction I had with this young very privileged dude. Like, I was living in California and I had just quit my job. My baby was 6 months old. I was staying home with him and it was really hard. I mean, it was hard before that. It was very hard staying home with him full time. And he was like, oh yeah, it would be great if I could just like quit my job and not work. And I was like, I'm not unemployed. I work 24 hours a day.
Right.
And I'm like, if I could go back in time, I would chew him out even more.
This is like, people don't get it until they're in the position where they have to do it. It's a lot of discipline that comes with working for yourself, let alone working at home. And then when you put a child on top of that, it's not for everybody, and it can drive you crazy because there's no one delegating, hey, stop this, do this, stop this, do this. You are it.
Yeah.
It's hard. And no matter what you told him, he would never get that.
He never would. Yeah, like, I mean, even my own husband didn't really get it until, like, I went away for, like, 2 weeks, which I've never done that since, but, like, he called me freaking out, and I'm like, I told you, but you had to experience to get it. But, I mean, so, like, mothers have interactions like that all day long. Where someone's like, oh, you're on vacation. You're like, I am not on vacation. Like, this is not what's happening right now.
I have a friend that's pregnant now, and she was like, oh, I should get pregnant more often. They're giving me 16 weeks off of work. I said, listen, after 2 weeks, you're going to go insane because it's Groundhog Day every day. And it's a child that needs you, that you don't even know. You don't even understand this child. You just know you are it. It's very demanding. And that time from leaving the hospital to going a month into having a newborn, it's very taxing on a mom. And that's where sometimes postpartum will fall in, because people really can't balance who I am outside of this baby, now that this baby is outside of me. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that, like, being able to talk to other moms about all of that stuff, I think is really important. And that's one of, like, the factors we hear in our motherhood, is because, like, when you're trying to explain to someone, like, oh, I just had this major identity shift, who's never had a baby, they just don't get it,
Right.
And so seeing other moms, like, connect to each other, like, they're connecting with their bodies and being able to fix some things and deal with motherhood in a little bit more effective way. And then on top of it, they're more connected to other mothers, which is really important, I think, because I just feel like sometimes you feel like you're going crazy. You're like, shouldn't this be easy? And you're like, well, if you had like 10 other people helping you, yeah, but you don't, like, so, and even then I don't think it would be easy, but like, I had one mom that came to a yoga class, a postpartum yoga class, and she was 4 weeks postpartum, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to do something for you. She had 2 kids under 18 months. So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, you really need to be here today. Like, I'm so glad to do yoga. And I was like, we have got to do something for this mom because that's so intense. And so I got some other moms together, and we, like, cooked her some food and brought her food and stopped by her house and just kind of chatted, like, hung out with her for a while. And I was putting some food in the fridge, and I overheard them talking. And the mom with the 2 kids under 18 months, she was like, yeah, I've just been so lonely, because a lot of her friends didn't have kids, and so they're getting these kinds of messages all the time, whether or not they need to say it. Like, that's messages you get. And the other mom was like, you don't have to be lonely anymore, and she gave her phone number. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Because when you have friends that don't have kids and then you just had a baby, it's kind of like people forget that you're the person before you had the baby still. And then everybody kind of like disconnects from you because you belong to that baby now. And it's not that. So just going over there with her and just her talking to people her age or around her age or women outside of the baby, that alone was like, okay, thank you for making me feel like a human being. Like that was my biggest thing, not feeling like a human being after I had the baby, because everybody's like, oh, I'm here to see the baby. I'm like, but I'm here.
Right. What about me? It's so interesting. So our mission with Here in On Motherhood is matrescence support. So matrescence is this fancy word for becoming a mother. It's kind of like adolescence, but like when a child is becoming an adult, but matrescence is becoming a mother. Yeah. And one of the parts of matrescence is your status in society changes. So it's almost like you're explaining where you're like, hello, like I'm here, guys. Like I felt like as soon as my son was born, I was like this supporting character, like this behind the scenes character in my own life. I was like, this is so weird. Like 10 minutes ago, before I had the baby, I was like the star of the show because I was pregnant. And then like the second he comes out, like no one cares about me. It was so weird and stark. And I feel like that's so common as a mom, where now you're expected to just like take care of the baby and be quiet. And that's it. That's the message that I get. And I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, like my first daughter, I went through that pregnancy and I slightly found ways to enjoy it. And then I had her and she was a very easy baby. Like I had her in the house for 2 months and no one knew I had a newborn. And then I had her sister, complete opposite. A ruckus, no sleep for anybody. She had to be on you when you slept. I couldn't sleep on my side. So I didn't sleep for like a year after I had her, which made me miserable. And even when people would have her, there's this thing that you have after you have kids where you never sleep as hard as you did before you had kids. And when you hear baby noises, even if it's not your kid, your sleep is done, whatever you were paying attention to is done, and that is your focus. And I love it and I hate it sometimes, because when I need to relax, I can't. I'm trying to figure out what I can fill in with that time. So finding the balance between you and being a mother is very important. And with matrescence, I wanted to ask you, what were your changes that you experienced and your challenges with that?
Yeah. I think like your status in society changing, that was very weird for me. Definitely like my identity changing and like concepts of motherhood coming up that I was like, whoa, where did this come from? You know, like things that my mom had said when I was like in 3rd grade were like echoing in my head. Like I was like, this is so weird. Like the like putting my kid in daycare was like this huge thing for me. Like I would watch them, like I drop him off and they like come and get him from the car, and I don't have to get out, and they like, so I see them like lead him away in front of my car and go into the building, and every time I'm like, I should be with him, I should go get him. I'm like, it's okay. Like, and I had to get through all of these thoughts of like things my mom had said because other people had said them to her, you know, and I'm like, I'm actually not a bad mom.
Right.
Or having someone else help me.
Yeah, it's like, a different time. Mom, you know, didn't have to do it so much or didn't have the options to do more. So having a baby and instantly falling into caretaker of that child was it. Now it's kind of like, how do I balance, you know, being an individual, you know, having a business and being a mother and being a wife, all while feeling like I'm doing it all the correct way. And you know, with my first kid, my mom watched her up until she was 3, and then when she was 3.5, that's when she went to like preschool. And she had an issue with socializing with other kids because she was so used to be with my mom, and that always having her focus. And then my second kid, she had to be watched by a sitter that I had to watch in my house on Wi-Fi cameras that were on my phone while I was at work 40 hours a week. And having to build trust with complete strangers with your new kid, and them not having the close impact with a grandmother or grandparents where you feel like, ooh, okay, I don't have to second guess it. I don't have to think or overthink anything. They're in good hands. And then seeing the differences in like how they learn versus starting out with someone at home versus not is completely different. So even with that, I don't feel like I'm a bad mother because one was, taught differently than the other. It's all about finding the balance. Did you do the best with the situation you had? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if I can say yes, then I'm good.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the things that I didn't anticipate with like all of that was like how tied in my identity was to that. Yeah. Like I was like, so right now my son's, he does like 2 mornings a week at daycare. And then I was like to my husband, I'm like, I think that I need to put him in full-time, like 40 hours a week daycare. And it wasn't even that I was like scared for his safety. I was like, who am I if he's in daycare? It was so, it was such this intense, like almost like panic, like, but I've built my whole life around being like this, like stay-at-home mom. And then if he goes to daycare, who am I? I'm like, this is weird. I mean, it's not bad or anything. I'm just like this, and it was very intense too, where I'm like, this is like a big deal to me. And I think that's just part of matrescence, is it's like your identity is like all jumbled up and it gets kind of complicated. So it's just interesting.
So when, if I ask you to be a woman, what does that mean to you out of everything going on?
To be a woman, I feel like my concept of what a woman is and to be a woman has like transformed and grown. Like I've been kind of this like, I don't know, I feel like the more I get into maternal health, the more I see that there's a lot of feminist issues within it that I'm like, for example, maternal health is often baby-centered, which I'm like, why? It's maternal health, like mom-centered, Yeah. And so the more I don't know, I'm just on this journey with like, who am I? What is a woman? And I feel like a woman is like free and powerful. And I feel like that's what a woman is. And I feel like the more I connect with myself and like my physical body, the more I feel like a woman, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's all connected. It makes sense. Could you explain the Mommy Lounge?
Yeah, so we have a space where moms can come and hang out, and it's kid friendly, which means it's mom friendly. And so we have the yoga studio in one room and then the Mommy Lounge in the other room. And so we have play dates in there. And then when we do yoga, we do free childcare. So yeah, it's been pretty cool to have that space for us. We kind of were on this journey where we were in a couple different spaces, and then there was a fire in one of the buildings.
Oh no.
And I was like, all right. And then someone donated their space, but it was in the next city over. So people didn't want to drive that far. And so it all worked out the way it was supposed to. And it's been really awesome for us to have our own space. And yeah, it's been great.
Nice. So yoga, I had my experience with hot yoga in New York, and that alone was very relaxing. So I can only imagine how that is with, women that are coming out of their bodies being completely changed after 9 or 10 months, and then your body is never the same after kids. So having something that's relaxing and natural like yoga is completely perfect. So anyone, if you haven't tried it, I would suggest it. I really enjoyed yoga. When it comes to mothering and your child, how would you explain motherhood in like 2 words?
I would say motherhood is intense. And that would be one word. And then my second word would be I would be very so motherhood is very intense. That's
Yes.
what I would say.
Right. Like super intense, especially well, you only have one child. Their personalities are completely different all the time, so I don't know. When you have one kid, being a mom and really identifying with yourself with being a mom, I think is super important, because you kind of show your child that there's more to, just doing this, and I could do this also. And it's a good example for them to see that. That way they grow up and they can see women in multiple places and still being equal to be a mother and equal to be a owner and equal to be this and that. And for me, I try to show my daughters that all the time, because I don't want them to see it as, okay, you become a mom and everything else is cut off. You have to be able to kind of like morph motherhood into all the other things that you're doing. And I think, having, an organization that helps other mothers and also being able to be hands-on with your child is something like really commendable, because, a lot of moms might mother and then they leave that and go to a job where you're working because you have to, or you're working and it doesn't really mean anything, or it doesn't really like fit your purpose. And to have something that stems from an experience you had, I think that's awesome. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really awesome to have like my own purpose behind it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can ever be someone else's employee now, because like,
there's no way for you to go back. Your mind is completely different. Yeah. What would you say is your biggest challenge within motherhood?
Biggest challenge within motherhood. I would say, I think my biggest challenge, like, it's definitely like I've been through different chapters, and I think right now I'm kind of in this chapter of finding meaning in like small day-to-day tasks or like aspects of motherhood, because a lot of it is very like repetitive, and it's all like little things, and finding a way to enjoy that, especially when we're all like stuck in the house, right?
Yeah.
All this corona stuff, but yeah, I think that's something that I'm like exploring right now, and part of it's for me like not having super high expectations, or not having like firm expectations for like what a situation is supposed to be like. Like I really like to cook, and so my son is always wanting to help me cook, and I'm like, dude, I just want to get it done.
Listen, I don't like the girls to help me in the kitchen. They're always trying to come, and I'm just like, no.
I know. And like last night I was making caramel corn, and he like pulls the chair up and gets up, and like this was my second batch because I'd already messed up the first one. So I'm like, dude, don't even touch it because I already messed it up. Like,
Right.
and then he like plops a bunch of baking soda in. I'm like, well, maybe it will turn out still. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I mean, it's understandable. I think, you know, when you're learning your kid as they're growing, they're learning you. And so people say there's the terrible twos, and then there's a little bit of terrible threes. But I think once they sense, like, this time she said no, it's a no, it gets a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
So I hope they get there with you. Could you shout out 3 women that you feel are equally, you know, involved in something they're passionate about, just like you are about your organization right now?
Yeah. First one is Kirsten Burton with Camilla Chocolates. She makes bean to bar chocolates. I know that's like kind of nothing to do with maternal health, but
it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. She's so awesome, and so they purchase their beans from farms, and they're very particular about farms that like treat people well, like treat their employees well, and then they turn like beans into chocolate. And it's her son has a bunch of allergies, and so she made chocolate that he eat.
Yeah,
really cool.
That's good.
And then another one is Christine over at the Center for Sacred Window Studies. So they train Ayurvedic postpartum doulas. And I'm in their training program right now, and she's the director, and she just glows. Like, I don't know, like there's some, like I feel like I can usually just look at it of somebody and tell if they're a mom or not, because they look kind of like drained and maybe like they're on fumes a little bit, you know? But she actually has a kid the same age as me, and I think she has 4 boys, and her youngest is the same age as my son. And I'm like, you don't look like you've ever had a child in your life. Like, you just look so full and nourished, and just the way she interacts with people is awesome, and she's really knowledgeable about serving mothers with Ayurveda. And then another one is Jessica Edmiston, and she runs a company local here in Johnson City called her handle is the JC Syrup Lady, and so she makes elderberry syrup, and she just is like kick butt, like she's just really cool and really successful businesswoman, and I don't know how many more words to describe her. She's just like really cool.
People like that, they motivate you to be better and do more. So it's good to have like women like that around. I like that. Just seeing anybody just passionate in anything that they do is like, take me there. I want to be around that person. Just
right,
so I can have a good vibration.
Totally.
Yeah. So with balancing mothering, work, and being a wife every day, where do you find like time for you to just decompress?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have started getting up really early, and that's
like how early?
Like 5:15.
Oh
wow. So, because my son, he wakes up somewhere between 6 and 7. If that's a really good day, he'll wake up at 8. But like, I just need to be alone, and I also want to be alone when my husband is asleep. Like, I want to be, because I just want to be totally alone. And so I'll do depending on like what I have going on. I have chickens in my backyard, so I go and like, take care of my chickens in the morning because I like doing that, and then do a couple other like self-care things where I'm like, I'm just gonna like only do what I want to do, and this is my time, and I'm not gonna get anyone a drink of water. I'm not gonna turn Paw Patrol for anybody. So that's what I do. I just have to like carve it into my schedule in the morning, and then I find that I also really wanted when I accomplish something in the morning, like before my son wakes up, then I feel like I can be totally present with him, because I'm like, oh, I already did this thing, like I already did something awesome, now I can just like goof off with you all day, instead of like trying to fight him all day, being like, stop touching my computer, I'm trying to send an email, you know.
Yeah, that's really good, being present with them, because they can sense when you're trying to just get them to move and do something, and when you're trying to do something. So not feeling the pressure of like, I need to get this done, so you need to do this, is like super like easy and better if you have like a flow of it. So I completely get that. What does it mean to you to have a good supportive system or supportive people? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I moved here to Tennessee, I didn't know anybody, and my son was a little over a year, and I was like, I have to find a support system here, or else this is not gonna work, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just not gonna happen. And so like when I moved here, every like mom that I met that I had like any remote kind of like spark or interest that was in common with her, I was like, let's do a play date, and like just made a bunch of friends. And like I think like having someone who like understands the things that are important to me, and like those are also important to them, I think that is much more important to me than having like a ton of people. Kirsten, who does the chocolate, she's totally my best friend, and I met her because after my son was born, like when he was like 6 months old, so my husband and I were super religious, and then my husband left our faith, and that was like this big deal. We weren't planning on it. That was one of the reasons we married each other, because we were both very religious in our faith, and so it was this big thing. And then when I met her, because I'd been kind of like, you know, like targeting all of these ladies to like be friends with, and I had met Kirsten before, and I was like, hey, I haven't met you yet, like, but I'd met all the other people at this get together, and it was all like church people, and she's like, oh, well, I'm taking a break from church right now. And I was like, okay, I need to talk to you, because like you understand like faith-wise what's going on in my life right now, because like I'm here, my husband's not, and like you kind of understand this. And so we started hanging out, and like found out that she was a feminist like me, and we have a lot of other things in common that are really important to us. And anyway, so like I would rather have like just Kirsten than have like 50 people that like don't understand me, if that makes sense. Yeah, so
you kind of like feel like you're spreading yourself too thin, and you're really not getting the okay.
Exactly.
You get it. Yeah. I have like, I want to say 5 people that I would be like, oh my God, let me just tell you about my day, where I can just decompress, and then they fuel you up for the next day. And you need that. You need that. So I completely get that. So in 3 years, what change would you like to see, whether it comes with your family or your business or just you individually? What changes would you like to see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd like to see, I have like a vision for Here in Motherhood, but I don't know if it'll happen in 3 years. I'd really like to take us to have more than one location.
I was going to ask you if you have more than one location.
Yeah, right now I just have one, but I'd really like to have more than one, and have that be like a well-greased machine that I can like be like step back a little bit more from it, be a little bit less hands-on. But I think that's where that would be really cool. If maybe we were in like 1 or 2 more states in 3 years, that would be really cool. And it's funny, when you asked that, the first thing I thought like was, well, my husband would want us to live in a van. Like, I don't want to, but he does. In 3 years, he would love it if we were living in a van. But yeah, but I'd like to see Here and Now Motherhood in a couple different locations at that point.
Yeah, I feel like even like motherhood outside of going to your doctor, going to the hospital, you have your baby, now you're off. Just having, okay, what's next? And what's next are steps like having a doula and having her talk you through, okay, this is what it's like to have the baby now that the baby is out of you, and having, you know, a place like Here and Now Motherhood where they help you get back to yourself while you have this child, and understand that you're still an individual and you have a baby, and embrace that and help you grow into the first year of motherhood, the second year of motherhood. And then you started, you know, get comfortable with that. That's super important. So I completely feel like it should be in different states.
Yeah, totally. I love that vision of it. That's exactly the idea.
Wow, this is good information. So what I want to do is
Hey guys, thank you for listening to the episode with Nicole Hunt. If you would like more information on Here and Now Motherhood, please check out her podcast, Here and Now. It's on Apple Podcasts, apps, Spotify, and other platforms. Please check out her website, hereandnowmotherhood.org. And please just be more open to understanding that behind every pregnant woman, there is another way. There's another way to get through your pregnancy. There's another side of after pregnancy. Getting yourself back, that you are a human being throughout the whole thing. You're just evolving. Your body is changing. And then after you have the baby, you can go to yoga. You can, practice doing something naturally. You can take, a more natural way of healing. And I'm all for women just finding their way, finding that thing that helps them, because, surgery isn't always it. Pills isn't always it. We need to be able to heal ourselves. We need to be able to have another outlet, and having more women that are aware that our bodies are constantly changing and they deserve all the attention. Our kids deserve the attention and the space to make a decision on how we want our bodies to be treated. Being pregnant, helping to develop a baby, giving birth, life after giving birth. How does a father help or support a woman after birth? How does a mother get back to who she is? How does she find the balance between who she is as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, all of that? And thank you guys for listening today. And please check out Nicole Hunt's organization. And if you are a mom somewhere in a city where you do not know other moms, try what she did. Reach out to another mom, connect with another mom. There's so many places and platforms now where you can connect with other mothers, even if you physically don't know one around you where you are, especially if it's a new place. Please go on Instagram, try Twitter. There's a space for everybody these days. And thank you for listening to Cozy Womb. See ya. Bye.
Bye.